And it literally, we lost, was it half or 2/3 of the store, like overnight?
Let's fight failure together. We can defeat 90.
I'd say like a lot of business owners, we have like a dream, but what we start first normally is we start something reluctantly.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, this is what's the lowest hanging fruit. This is close by. I'll just start in this. And then at some point I'll figure something out. And then you have to find a reason to stay. You know, like say you want to open like a cupcake shop, but you start selling used books first and stuff. And then the cupcakes become a side thing and stuff. So it's like you either would have to merge the dreams or pick one, you know, and the fork in the road comes at you quick.
Yeah.
But when you started working with me, what was the best part was just you had fresh eyes on a business that I'd been in since 8th grade, you know? So I thought like there's only one way to do things and stuff. Like when he came on, all my product was sorted completely randomly. So I had like 28 shelves and I just would put what shelf it was on. And then you had to look through like 30 things, you knew it was on there. So like one of the first things he said was we should like resort the inventory when he came in, which was like, you know, you just
the
defended,
resistance.
Yeah, my dog or something, you know. I'm like pretty much, you know, had to try to defend why I had it like that or whatever.
And as every consultant goes through, it's like that pain of like, why are you doing this? And
or,
like,
yeah, why are you doing it the way you're doing
it? And they're like, well, I don't know. It's just the way we do it. And like, and I mean, we had some intense discussions, guys.
Well, and one of the probably top thing you did, which I think was huge, was like within a month, I had a store within the store. So my dad had like a lot of high-end inventory that he'd bought and saved back, and I was going to like pay him back with like a little bit of interest. I was buying a couple pieces of product a month from him, and then I would pay him back as they sold. And there was like over 100 parts. And you had suggested, what if we just buy the entire thing like now, which was basically like the entire operating account, but it was the parts that were selling the fastest. So they would be back in the account within a month.
Yeah. And it was probably the biggest risk you had taken at that point. I feel like.
And to like springboard us. Cause I was thinking, you know, I have to go a little bit at a time. And I had like all of these fictitious zeros where this has to be my floor and different stuff like that. But when you know something is like a surefire thing and it's just sitting there, like sometimes you gotta bite the bullet.
Well, I think the other thing too in that is you didn't have the systems in place to really deal with that.
Yeah.
Like one of the things we also worked in the beginning was, and this goes to a practical aspect of like getting the operations of your business like where it can run smoothly. So there wasn't tons of systems. And like, so for instance, like when you get a bunch of inventory in and it needed to be processed and to be ready to be sold, it would take you a month, 2 months sometimes. And we got to the point when we started getting the system in place, we took stuff that would take you a month in one day.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer. Like the amount of inventory. I remember when we hit some of the higher, like when we hit.
Well, when we had 500 listings.
Yeah. It's like, which we
got little Crown Royal shooters.
Oh gosh,
I'm gonna edit that out.
Probably so. Anyways, but it was one of those moments that was like, but the amount of inventory that got put on with those systems, it was crazy.
What I love about it is you and me celebrated 500 listings more than 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Like it just shows, where our brains were at the time.
Well, and the amount, like it got to the point where we were selling more a month than we were putting on.
Yeah, we were like at 450 sales, which is insane because that means we were basically where the store was originally at when we started was what we were moving.
Turning the entire store monthly,
Monthly, yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. But I think one of the things I want to point out, like going back to that, there was a point when we hit this, like we tried something really, really risky.
What, with the 3 stores?
Yeah. So we
opened 2 other stores that had identical inventory, and we tried different marketing strategies on all 3 stores, and it did work at the beginning.
And the thing is, we did look it up. It was completely within the terms of service of a certain company.
Yeah.
But they didn't like it. And we found out in their algorithm they didn't like it. And it turns bad real fast. And we got penalized.
We corrected swiftly.
And it literally, we lost, was it half or 2/3 of the store, like overnight?
Oh, and it all got pulled off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like, it was the amount of sales we were doing. It just like cut, and like it was like 2/3 of their sales were gone.
Yeah, we called it the crux.
The crux. But here's the thing about the crux and that point. It led to, again, innovation, but we work together. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I think that's a really important thing, that having that good cohesive team and people you can talk through things with.
Yeah. Well, and keep in perspective, because that's the crazy thing is like we basically went from 30,000 a month to 60,000 a month in 6 months. And then when we were back to 30, it felt like, we just hit the iceberg.
Yeah.
And you're like, we were here 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I think like there is that sort of feeling that the permanence, when you cross a certain threshold as a business, that this is the new normal and this is where we're gonna be at. So I think like it's kind of that hold on loosely effect of like, be happy, be grateful, like celebrate the wins and stuff. But if you go back to where you were earlier this year, it's not, the end of the world. Yeah. Like, how you got there the first time. It may be a different path the second time, but it's still possible.
Well, and I think too, it was one of those moments too, putting in perspective and looking also at the handcuffs we put ourselves in. And that was a start of diversifying things as well, of looking at different avenues and like even going further than where it had been. Because if, heaven forbid, the marketplace that went out of business, then we were just screwed.
We were on one sales channel again, but it was still like, it was obviously bigger than 3 customers, but it's still the same thing. Just not being diversified. Yeah.
And so, I think that's the thing you've crushed it at now since I've moved on and doing this, as you are diversifying the heck out of things. And some of the things we had talked about in the beginning, you're now executing, and the opportunities have happened.
Let's fight failure together. We can defeat 90.